Since you've already interviewed a lot and in both senses, as an interviewee, as an interviewer, so what are some resources that you would suggest for people to get into an organization? And do you have any tips and recommendations for those people?
Definitely, if you're planning to interview for the role of software engineer, it's highly likely that we have an interview rounds on data structures and algorithms, and followed by a system design round as well. So if you're planning to prepare for data structures and algorithms, my recommendation would be is to practice it on LeetCode, HackerRank, and similar websites. For system design, you can look up for resources on YouTube or Grokking. There are great resources out there, and it is always a good practice to disambiguate a problem statement that you receive in an interview before actually giving a solution or directly jumping into code. Finally, I would also recommend finding a group of people, a group of like-minded people that you can practice with or solve questions together. This would help you to build an interview setup and maximize your productivity and look into problems or solutions from different angles.
When you say disambiguate a problem in an interview, can you elaborate a bit more on that? Because I picked up a few things from our discussions when I was interviewing, which were helpful. So if you can explain how to approach an interview, that would definitely help some of the people as well.
Okay. Uh, there is a rule of thumb that I follow as when okay, if you are a candidate and I ask you, Saransh, write a function, it's very vague, right? You don't know what this function do. So whenever you receive a problem, always and always try to define the interface. In general, an interface is what is the parameter, what is the input, and what is the output. The moment you have your set of input and an output with their data type, with their values, whatever you want, but once you have that, it's very likelihood that you're going in the right direction. Now you have, think of it as an API contract. So the way now the question becomes a little more disambiguated, because you know that, okay, I'm trying to write a function which takes a particular set of values and returns a particular set of values, and now it's the intermediary function that is that what you have to write. So take it step by step. The first is an interface, the second is the bounding values, the edge conditions, and then you move to the algorithm, and that is how you can make your problems more robust.
So you've definitely picked up a few things over the years when you've interviewed for companies, and uh, you've definitely learned a few things. So for people who are interviewing, maybe beginners, maybe experienced people, do you have any suggestions or best practices and learnings that you would like to share?
So my primary suggestion is give as many interviews as possible. Until you are on a visa issue, you have visa concerns, then I think that it's altogether a different game. But if that's not a concern, you should always give interviews and build on that skill. So giving interviews is a skill, right? And if it's a skill, that means you can learn it, you can build it, you can strengthen it. um, for example, thinking out loud, or writing your production code on a whiteboard without any editor, writing on a shared code editor with in the times of pandemic, or during a phone screen. So my primary suggestion and recommendation is keep on giving this interviews, so that you know what's happening in the industry, what are the questions to prepare, and you are able to strengthen your skills. My second suggestion would be, don't join a company because you have only one offer letter. Gather at least a few and then decide that, hey, I have these offer letters, but I want to join this company. That You can use this process to build your negotiation skills. You can build this process to upgame your numbers. But this process will always help you to have a confidence that you're at the right place or you're at your current place because you wanted to be there. And that should always boost your self confidence.
That's valuable insights. One thing which I think we haven't touched upon, but is also on a related note, so I'll get into that now, is apart from just giving interviews, you've also conducted a lot of interviews in your life. So on the flip side of it, there's most people don't realize that there's a specific skill set that interviewers should have. People just ask questions, and I've sometimes it throws the interviewee off. So can you talk about tips for interviewers that you've learned and you think people should at least follow to not have people just thrown off and good candidates get rejected?
I have a couple of recommendations and suggestions for interviewers, both who are just beginning their careers as interviewers, and a few recommendations for seasoned interviewers as well. The primary being, uh, it is our responsibility to bring in diversity and inclusion in our domain. We should open our arms and accept people across different diverse backgrounds and ensure that people are getting the right set of opportunity with the right set of skills. The second is, as an interviewer, it is our responsibility to make the candidate comfortable. If candidates are not comfortable, it is very difficult for them to perform their best. And at interviews, and interviews being a different setup, it is very important uh, for candidates to perform. And obviously, that interviews in general as a topic just builds up into the minds of candidates where they start panicking. And my final note for them is, you are not the bar. This is a mistake that I've seen with a lot of interviewers who start judging the candidates that, hey, the candidate didn't perform in a certain way. They didn't choose this algorithm. They were not able to solve it using a particular strategy that they would have otherwise chosen. And this is not the right thing to do. You should always understand what is the role and what is the level that you're interviewing for and what is the bar. A bar, and you are not the bar if you're hiring you're hiring an engineer at your own level. And the best way to know what is a bar is talk to your peers, talk to people in a particular level, and ask them as a friend, hey, I want to run a mock interview with you for a question that I've prepared, or that a question I'm planning to do in my next interview. Do you have 30 minutes to spare? And this in a way helps the interviewer to build and understand what they should expect in an actual interview. A lot of time it's off-putting because the interviewers aren't prepared of a particular set of question, of a particular direction, and they are like, it doesn't make sense to me, and that's not the right thing to do. Similarly, I do have one suggestion for interviewees as well. um, Always remember one thing when you go for an interview, that the primary role of an interviewer is to hire you. So interviews are very expensive for a company. So let's say a company has allocated 5 engineers or managers or X number of people. They've allocated 1 hour for each of these set of people to interview you. And their sole responsibility of that 1 hour is to hire you, not to reject you, or not in any which way to not know you better. So utilize this time effectively. And the moment candidates start thinking from a perspective, okay, the person who is interviewing me is actually my friend and he's trying to know me better, that pressure of interviews can ease out. So that's my recommendation and suggestion.
Sounds good. And I think those are all the questions I had.